No mano, me no mano, me no mano. We're starting the show shortly. Here we go. We're starting it about now. Here we roll. We decided to do a different song this time because we're talking about a very special time. I rhyme time with time because I don't know rhymes. I'm not a raptor. I am a rapper, except not a rapper either. That's what I meant to say the first time. I said raptor because I saw a dinosaur movie that wasn't that great, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Instead, we'll talk about this right now because I have time to borrow. 3 minutes past the time, I better get going. Don't think I'm ready, but oh well, I have to go now. Oh,
Hi,
hello,
hi,
hello,
hi, hi.
hello to everyone. How are you? Hi. Welcome back to Popcorn Poppin, the Oscars edition. See, I noticed I'm running a little bit late today, so I decided to just bring the tie, and this is what we'll do. We'll just tie as the show goes, and by the end of the show, if I actually finish putting on my tie, then we'll call it a success because that's how ready I am. We were going to do an edited version of this video with all the cool edits and fun tricks, but decided against it because it takes too much time. I wanted to do something very special involving sketches and everything, but instead, let's just have fun and talk a little bit about some movies like we always do. That's like the most fun there is to do. So let's do that, shall we? All right. So what we're going to start with first are talking about some snubs. All right. Before we go over the actual nominees. So, what are some snubs? What is a snub? You may ask yourself. I'll tell you what a snub is. Snub is where someone does something so good that they weren't recognized, or other people recognized for something and you weren't recognized. You were snubbed. Like that's some horse shit, as the kids say. Horse, donkey, doo doo. It's not fun. You know, you always have to be good when you always have to be good. You always have to recognize game, and game recognize game. I don't have game, but I'm gonna act like I have game. Let's get on with it. Woman King should have been nominated for several things, one of which being Viola Davis, obviously. Like, I understand you only get 5 nominees per category, except for Best Picture. I think Best Picture actually has 10 nominees. And it is a really good list of nominees. I just think that Viola Davis should have absolutely have been noticed for that film. So was the director, Miss Prince Blythewood. No female directors were nominated this year, which really pissed off a lot of people. Rightfully so. But I still think she should have been recognized. If you haven't watched Woman King, check it out on Netflix. It is excellent. She should have been nominated. Next snub, the film Causeway, which stars Jennifer Lawrence and Brian Tyree Henry. Brian Tyree Henry was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but Jennifer Lawrence wasn't, and I thought she should have got nominated, honestly. She's one of those actresses that has a clear division. I've said this before when describing acting. You're a really good actor if you go from character to character, and there's a clear division of the previous characters that you played before, meaning they're so different from each other that you can hardly see similarity between any of which, and Jennifer Lawrence really nailed that. You can watch Causeway on Apple TV Plus. Triangle of Sadness, Dolly De Leon. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but she is the leader of the third act. That's what I'll say. The actress was very, very good. I can't really talk about it that much because there's a shift in power in the film if you haven't seen Triangle of Sadness. And by the way, fine, I'll tie that around my forehead, but first let's see if I can tie it regularly. Thank you, Mr. Kid Rax Novocaine. Dolly De Leon, check out Triangle of Sadness. If you haven't, she's really great in it. The movie was nominated for Best Picture, and without her acting, that third act wouldn't have been as great. And if you saw the movie, then you know what I'm talking about. Next up, Resurrection by Rebecca Hall. Resurrection, the film with Rebecca Hall. Resurrection is an excellent film. about a woman who escaped from a terrible, terrible, terrible abusive relationship. And then years later, he finds her and what's the word? Resurrects something inside of her, that of which her paranoia, her sanity. It is an excellent film. I highly recommend watching it. You can watch it on on AMC Plus or Shutter. There's so many pluses that I always think of Apple first. So I'm pretty sure it's AMC Plus or Shutter. Resurrection, Rebecca Hall. She should have got nominated. She's one of my favorite actresses, honestly. Next snub, Banshees of Inisherin has been nominated for a lot, but they haven't been nominated for cinematography, and I think that should have happened. So, Banshees of Inisherin, Decision to Leave, which is Chan-wook Park's latest film that you can watch on the Mubi app. If not, you can rent it through digital. But it should have been nominated for at least Best Foreign Film, but definitely Best Cinematography and or Editing. As some of the wildest transitions and camera angles I've ever seen in film, let alone in Chan-wook Park's work, which is really, really a high praise because he has done some of the most amazing films like Old Boy, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, Sympathy for Mrs. Vengeance, other things. He's an excellent director. He did more than just the Vengeance trilogy, I promise. What else got snubbed? Pearl, specifically Mia Goth. Now, horror doesn't really get nominated that often anymore, which is kind of a bummer. And I do believe that her performance in the film Pearl, which is the follow-up to X, is really well done. There are two extremely long shots, like 13 minutes long and 8 minutes long, towards the end of the film that are high praise. High praise. She was excellent in it. And I think she should have got recognized, honestly, for an Oscar or at least a Golden Globe. You can watch X, the first film, on Showtime. You don't need to watch it to watch Pearl, but you should. And you can rent Pearl for $5 if you'd like. Keep in mind they are making a third film called Maxine, which is supposed to be coming out either later this year or early next year. I believe later this year, though. Next snub, Sarah Polley for Women Talking. She directed the film. We're going to go over more of that film later on. But when it comes to direction, I try to do some research on what people look for when you're nominated for director. People are looking for your vision on screen. And even though I don't really have issues necessarily with the film. I don't, because I support women and I support them talking. We'll go over it later. But her vision was clearly on that screen. And I do believe that she should have been recognized for it with a nomination. Blonde on Netflix, I think, should have been noticed for its cinematography as well, or at least maybe direction. I thought it was a very well-made film. 3 hours is too much, but I do think it could have been recognized. Specifically for cinematography, I really just liked it a lot. RRR on Netflix is a Nollywood film. If you haven't seen it, watch it. It's a wild film. But it should have been nominated for Best Foreign Film as well. You can watch that on Netflix. And also Babylon for directing. Babylon didn't get nominated for anything, I don't think, because we're only going to go over certain categories, not all of them. First of all, for time, and second of all, there are nominating categories that I don't care too much about, to be honest. And I do think Damien Chazelle, not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, should have been nominated because his vision was clearly defined on that screen. He has a weird sense of humor when it comes to script writing. I do believe he should stick with non-comedic films. This film was fun, but he's got a weird sense of humor. In the opening scene, there's a scene where elephant shits on somebody, and it's a long shit, and you can tell he really liked it. There's another scene where this dude gets pissed on. It's kind of a long scene. You're like, I feel like I'm supposed to be like, ha ha, this is so funny. This is just gross, man. You know, just a little gross. Did I piss myself, or is this or is this melting on me? It looks like I pissed myself. Just to show you so it doesn't look like I'm crazy. I did not piss myself, I swear. All right, so that is it for the snubs. Now we're going to go over... This is how we're going to do it. We're going to go over the Best Picture nominations. We're going to talk about them a little bit each, one by one. And at the very end, we will go over who I believe wins and who I believe should have won. because there is a difference between who the Academy Awards picks and who I believe is deserving, because I'm right. Now, I have done this type of video before and I was wrong every time. Every time I'm amongst friends watching the Oscars or doing like gambling and trying to pick out who's going to win, I'm always so sure. I'm going to say for the first time in years, I am not sure who's going to win because I'm always wrong. But I'm still going to go over who I think is going to win nonetheless. So let's get started. If you're watching this on Instagram, please subscribe to Jermaine Higgins Presents on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, because I just started a group on that too. But you can watch this with graphics on there if you haven't yet. This is sponsored by Uptime. It's not a real sponsor, but it does keep me awake in order to do all the work that needs to be done. Let's do this. All right, so the first movie we're going to be talking about is Women Talking. All right, you can watch this now on Amazon Prime. It's one of the Best Picture nominees. A group of women in a religious colony outside of normal society hold a meeting to decide if they should leave or fight after figuring out a monstrous truth about the abusive men in control. This film is basically, it should have been called 12 Understandably Angry Women and One Whiny Dude. It is a very interesting subject. I got to go over the title real quick. Now, I'm very happy that women are getting a voice on screen. It's a great medium for them to be heard. And also, this is a time for women to actually be treated like human beings, because they haven't been treated like human beings for a very long time. I support it. Now, from a marketing standpoint, I don't think it's the best idea to call your movie Women Talking. For instance, there's a movie called Crazy Stupid Love. Steve Carell hated that this movie was called Crazy Stupid Love because he didn't think that would cater to all audiences. Do you see a group of like dudes, bros, going to buy a ticket for Crazy Stupid Love? Probably not. My point is that if you want to be more enticing to the general audience, maybe call it something else. Because as a dude, I am not excited to watch a movie called Women Talking. Just saying. If I get canceled for saying that, I'm sorry. But I'm just being truthful. I can't hold in everything. In any case, Women Talking is actually a very well-made film, but it's a little on the boring side because it is a lot of dialogue. But it all takes place in one day, which is kind of cool. The acting from Jessie Buckley, Claire Foy, and Rooney Mara are top-notch. There wasn't enough Frances McDormand, but apparently she helped produce the film. If you like this film, watch Bombshell, which you can rent for $4. She Said, which is on Peacock, another snub, honestly. I think that it could have been nominated for Best Picture because of its subject matter. It's very much like Spotlight. Or Martha, Marcy, May, and Marlene, starring Elizabeth Olsen, which you can rent for $4. You can watch Amazon Talking on Women Talking on Amazon Prime. Next film, All Quiet on the Western Front. Starting in 1917, a group of young German classmates enlist in the German army to fight in World War I. This movie is very depressing. It was directed by Edward Berger, and he's directed a few episodes of the first season of The Terror. If you haven't watched it, watch it, okay? I don't know about the second season. I didn't finish it, but the first season's really, really good. It's basically, think of it like an Icelandic scary bear is chasing a group of people. It's fucking nuts. Anyways, he also directed the miniseries Patrick Melrose, which you can watch on Showtime and Paramount Plus. He's also directed 3 episodes of Your Honor, which I hear is very, very good, which is on Showtime. Anyways, All Quiet on the Western Front, excellent war film. It's one of my favorite war films. There's not like that many there are a lot of war films. This is up there though, I'd say. It was excellent. I didn't watch the original. If you want to watch the 1930 version, you can rent it for $4. And other films that are like this are 1917, which you can rent for $4, or you can watch this movie on Netflix right now. Next up, Avatar, The Way of the Water, which is in theaters right now. James Cameron said, let's face it, if Avatar 2 and 3 don't make enough money, there's not going to be a 4 and a 5. Well, of course, It made a shit ton of money. 3 is coming out in December 2024. 4 is coming out in December 2026. And 5 is coming out in December 2028. Too much whale stuff in this movie. It is a glorious film to watch on screen. Avatar 1, I never finished the whole, except for my last viewing, which was like my third or fourth time trying. All previous times trying to watch Avatar 1, I fell asleep every single time. And it's, it's a marvel to look at. The colors and CGI and all that. Very, very nice to look at. But I thought the story was just bland and boring. I didn't really care for it. Avatar 2, however, even though character choices and motivations and whatnot, without getting into the nitty gritty, I thought it was way better than 1, but there was way too much whale stuff, and the movie doesn't need to be 3 hours every time. Come on, dude. If you're giving us 5 movies, just give us like 10 and make each movie 2 hours, an hour and a half long. Don't make them all 3 hours. But then again, it's like that Peter Jackson thing where like, it's so epic in scale, I must make it over 3 hours. All right, man, do you. So yeah, the whale stuff was too much. There's an oddly sexual whale scene that I didn't find very fun to watch as well. But, connecting with animals is always kind of sexual in these films. And it was weird to have a sexual one with a whale. Anyways, IMAX 3D. So I want to talk about that for a second. I never like IMAX or 3D. Not that I dislike IMAX, but these days with reclining seats, I'd rather just go watch a regular digital version of a film on screen if I get, the nice comfortable seats. But in IMAX, at least the theaters around here, you don't get recliner seats. So I'd rather just sit back and relax. 3D, I've never thought they've done it right. This time I decided to do IMAX 3D because James Cameron, tries so fucking hard to make the best movie theater experience for this marvel of technology and grand in scale. And it is great to look at. But I will say overall, I don't think we're quite there yet. It's still great, and it's a marvel and all that. But for me personally, I can still see it in theaters. I would rather still see it in theaters, and I think I still recommend people to see it in theaters. It's just with it being 3 hours long, you can wait for it to stream if you got a big TV. You can now, if you like this movie, I spilled a bunch on myself. I recommend watching The Abyss and Titanic. Both directed by James Cameron. If you've never seen Titanic, come on, man. But The Abyss is very, very underrated. I highly recommend that. Avatar 1 is on Disney Plus. Avatar 2 is still in theaters. Next up, The Banshees of Inisherin, which I'll never, ever know how to pronounce. Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson live on a paradise island of Ireland. They're best mates, but Brendan doesn't want to be friends with Colin Farrell, and dark, humorous chaos ensues. I say ensues weird. Hey man, it's Martin McDonagh. If you don't know Martin McDonagh's work, if you're a theater kid, you know Martin McDonagh. He writes very dark comedy, great fucking dialogue plays. I was in, I think, only one called The Pillow Man in college. Very, 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 very grateful to be part of any production period, but also anything written by him because he's such a fucking great guy. But if you only know him cinematically, he did In Bruges and 7 Psychopaths and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. He loves using Colin Farrell, and I loved In Bruges is my favorite. This movie to me is like a spiritual sequel. It's as if, let's say, hypothetically, if the characters died in the end of In Bruges, this is them in a heaven, and Brendan Gleeson's trying to get away from Colin Farrell, but they both don't want to leave. If that makes sense. If you've seen the movie, I think you can kind of agree. This movie's excellent. It's probably my second favorite of McDonagh's work. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. But if you haven't seen In Bruges, watch that first, and then you decide if this is kind of like a heaven for characters, depending on what happens to them at the end. Colin Farrell is fucking incredible in this movie. I've always been a Colin Farrell fan. Maybe incredible is not the right word, because incredible is like, and he is like, whoa, dude, really good acting. But he does it. It's hard to balance comedy and heartbreak, and I think he does that excellently in this film. If you like this, again, watch In Bruges on Stars. 7 Psychopaths is fun. That's on Pluto TV or Paramount Plus. And, oh, wow. Has this not been working? And 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. You can rent for $4, or if you have cable, you can watch for free or on FX Now. But you can watch Banshees of Inisherin on HBO Max right now. Next film, Elvis. You can watch this on HBO Max now. Guess who it's about? Elvis. Too many concert scenes. This was a good movie. I like Baz Luhrmann a lot. He's done Australia, Moulin Rouge. Actually, I'm not a big Moulin Rouge fan. And it's still like grand and all that. But I guess the word of today is grand, if you haven't noticed. But he also did Great Gatsby. And when I found out he was doing this film about Elvis Presley, I thought, hey, that's a great director to do it. This is a well-made film. It's just too many concert scenes. It felt like I was watching a compilation of Elvis performances as opposed to seeing his rise to the king of rock and roll, which is something I'm more interested in. Replicating concert video is still very, very cool. And he did it almost damn near perfectly. It's just, it wasn't the film that I was expecting to watch. I didn't want to watch a compilation of seeing him in a concert, but I do feel like I have a small semblance of what people had felt when they saw him in concert IRL. If you want to watch this movie, you can watch it on HBO Max right now. Next movie. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Hey, what can I say about this movie that I can't really say until much later, which probably gives you a hint on who I think is going to win or who I want to win. This movie is a better multiverse film than the whole fucking MCU franchise. It's fun all over. It's a good message of living as different versions of yourself. And it's a good message to appreciate the life you have instead of dreading it and focusing on regrets. Just living in the now and making the best of life. It's got comedy. It's got action. It's got donuts. It's got one of the best villains I've ever seen in cinema. That's right. I said it. But there were some parts that dragged a little bit in the second half of the film. The rock scene was long. It was just long. It was really, really long. It was basically because this movie throws so much at you on screen that you get kind of, what's the word? Overwhelmed. Not overwhelmed. Not overwhelmed in the sense of like, oh, I don't know if I can do this anymore. But sensory overload. That's what this film gives, because it gives you so much, which is a positive. But it got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm satisfied with what I watched. I'm ready for this movie to wrap up. And that didn't happen until like a half hour later. So it's not necessarily that half hour had bad shit. It just had like unnecessary things. They could have shaved like 20, 30 minutes off of this movie, and it still would have been one of my favorite movies ever. Honestly, it's so fun. Watch it if you haven't. If you liked this, watch the Turn Down for What music video, which you can watch on YouTube. I highly recommend it. That's Turn Down for What? Turn Down for What? It's the same directors as that music video. Swiss Army Man, I'm not that big of a fan of, but they directed it. You can watch that on HBO Max. This movie also reminded me of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which you can watch on Netflix right now. Directed by Edgar Wright, one of my favorite directors, and also one of my favorite movies. But that sensory overload is why it reminds me of Scott Pilgrim. Being John Malkovich, which you can watch on Amazon Prime, it's because of the mind fuckery of this film, reminds me of John Malkovich. And Kung Fu Hustle, which you can rent for $3, is the silliness and the action really reminds me of this film. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. Poppin, watch this film on Paramount Plus and Showtime. You have to watch it. Watch it. Next film, The Fabelmans, which you can rent for $6 buckaroos. Basically, it's Steven Spielberg's autobiographical life story. This is one of the few movies where he gets a screenplay credit. He doesn't get a screenplay credit for all of his movies, but you see there's certain Steven Spielberg movies where you're like, he wrote some of the shit in here. It's a fairly good film. It's one of his better films that he's done lately, and it's cool to see Spielberg make an autobiography, but kind of weird main story of his mother's affair. You have to watch it. It is very good though. It's just not one of my favorite Spielberg movies, but it is even cooler how much he opens himself up to the world of cinema, like how cinema had taken care of him all of his life. So it was nice to see a director share this much of his soul on screen. If you like this, I highly recommend watching some of his underrated work. Duel, which I believe is a TV movie that you can rent for $4. Jaws, come on, it's Jaws, rent for $4. 1941, this is a comedy starring John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd, which you can watch on Crackle. It's fucking great. Christian Bale was a kid in Steven Spielberg's Empire of the Sun. It was very popular, but I don't think people talk about it enough now. You can rent that for $3. AI, artificial intelligence. I heard people talk a lot of shit about this film, but I love it, and you can watch it on Amazon Prime. Jude Law is really good in it too, by the way. Minority Report, which you can watch on Peacock, very underrated. The Terminal, fucking love that movie. You can rent that for $4, or Munich, you can rent for $4, but that's really, really depressing. The Fabelmans, however, do I recommend watching it? It's worth it. Is it worth renting? I'd say wait a little bit, but I will say Poppin. I just, compared to Everything Everywhere All at Once, I don't know. If you love film, you should watch it because it's about Steven Spielberg. Next up, Tar or TR. I don't know how to do accent marks over A's. Famous and successful contemporary female composer gets canceled. It is very well made. It's 3 hours long again, and that's the only issue with it. It's just a little too long, but it's a damn near perfect film. It's a journey of a story of someone at the top only to watch them fall, and honestly, with good reason, because even though she's incredibly talented, she's done some shitty things and she keeps trying to wipe it under the rug, and that's not right to do. So basically it's about, it's about cancel culture. And instead of focusing on Hollywood, it's about a composer. And instead of a male, which is what you read in the news all the time, it centers around a female. So I thought it was a really good twist on the story. You can watch films similar to this, like Little Children, which is also directed by Todd Field, which you can rent for $3. In the Bedroom on Paramount Plus, very good film. Tom Wilkinson is an extremely underrated actor. And She Said on Peacock. He didn't direct that, but it's got a similar plot that's also based on a true story. But I recommend watching that. You can watch this movie, Tar, on Peacock. Damn near perfect. Next movie, which most people have seen, is Top Gun Maverick. Hey, I'm going to tell you guys something. I fucking didn't like Top Gun. I did not like that movie. Maybe I was born too late. I don't know. But like people my age love that movie, and I don't get it. I don't get it. I mean, unless you find like, unless you really like that like weird erotic fucking volleyball scene. Otherwise, like, I guess I can see that, I guess. But besides that, there was like a camaraderie between Maverick and Goose that was pretty cool to see and, a little heartbreaking. But I didn't like Top Gun, but I fucking loved Top Gun Maverick. I loved it. I wish Meg Ryan would have reprised her role. They alluded to her character from the first film a lot, but you don't need to watch the first film if you want to understand what's going on in this film. But if you don't know what this movie is about, fighter pilot school. I don't have to read this whole thing that I wrote. Dope action. One of the best movie theater experiences I've ever had watching a movie. The shit that they do in this movie is wild because a lot of it is actual flying that they've done. It's wild. Tom Cruise is an insane man, but storyline wise, it's a little corny, but it is worth watching. I got to tell you, I think that this still is playing in some cinemas. I do recommend taking that opportunity. But if you can't watch it in cinemas and you don't own a big TV with surround sound, find someone that does. I do. Besides the surround sound part, I have a sound part that's pretty good. But it's great. It's great. Check it out. And it's superior to Top Gun in every way. If you like this movie, check out not Top Gun because they're so damn different, but I'm sure everyone likes Top Gun. The Mission Impossible is on Paramount Plus for Tom Cruise. Devotion on Paramount Plus, which stars Jonathan Majors, and it's based on a true story. It's really, really good. The Aviator, which is one of my favorite Scorsese movies. That's very not Scorsese, which is on Netflix. Flight, which you can rent for $4. It's the Denzel Washington Academy Award nominated film. And Pearl Harbor, which you can watch on Hulu. It's Michael Bay, but hey, come on. That was a pretty good movie. At least I thought so. Next movie. is Triangle of Sadness. What a great movie. It centers, at least at first, around a model and social media influencer as they get rich, as they get on a rich person's boat, rich person's party boat, and chaos ensues. The movie is in 3 parts, very similar to Everything Everywhere All at Once, except that movie had one story that was basically divided into chapters, not really changing the rhythm or environment of what's going on. But it changes, and I can't talk about the movie too much, but the first 2 parts are my favorite. The third part, even though it really drives the story home, is really what the movie is about. I just preferred the first 2 parts. First part centers around the couple and economic relationship norms. The second part is on the ship, which focuses on the spoiled rich and the not so rich crew. The captain is not a fan. And the third part focuses on the beach, which was where the tables turn, and the movie has an unforgettable ending. I love this movie. It was directed by Ruben Östlund, who I'm sure I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly. And he did The Square, which you can rent for $3. I recommend. And Force Majeure, which is very popular. I do think I like The Square more, though. I don't know why, but Force Majeure you can watch on HBO Max. You can watch this movie, Triangle of Sadness, on Hulu right now. All right, so I am not going to tell you who I believe is going to win. Instead, I will save that for later. Let's go over real quick the other nominations. So, Best Director, we have Martin McDonagh for Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Sorry for mispronouncing your name, I'm sure. Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans, Todd Field for Tar, and Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. So, who's going to win? Banshees, Everything, The Fabelmans, Tar, or Triangle of Sadness? I think they're going to give this to Steven Spielberg because it's Steven fucking Spielberg. He's making his like magnus opus film. I think it would make sense for him to win. Who do I want to win? I want the Daniel. Oh, that's who you're not the Daniels. That's Steven Spielberg. Okay, that was supposed to be the Daniels over here. That's that dark picture of the Daniels. Oof, very good job, Tony. I think the Daniels are going to win for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Best Direction. It's hard to have a vision like that on screen, and it's unlike most films that you see. So I think that's why they deserve to win. Next up is Best Lead Actor. Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell for Banshees, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Paul Mescal for Aftersun, and Bill Nye, the Not Science Guy, for Living. I didn't see Aftersun, so I do believe that my opinion on this matter is not very sound because I do hear Paul Mescal is great. Now, I was going to watch this before recording, but I found out like 20 minutes ago. I'm like, oh, fuck, I can't believe I forgot to watch that. I hear he's great in it, and I hear the movie's fairly good as well. However, I do think that Brendan Fraser is going to win for The Whale. We haven't seen Brendan Fraser for a while, and The Whale was, I believe, only nominated for this film. If you haven't seen this film, it's about an obese teacher in severely poor health attempts to reconnect with his estranged and annoying teenage daughter, who's the redhead from the Stranger Things TV show. I think he's going to win. I think he absolutely deserved the nomination, but I personally think that Bill Nye should win. If you're familiar with this work, he was in Shaun of the Dead, Love Actually, a lot of other films, but those are the films that come to mind. I've never seen him play a role like this, man. He does this so quiet, and he does it so well. The film Living is based on Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru, Ikiru, which you can watch on HBO Max. It's really good, but there's a scene where basically it's about an older gentleman who finds out he doesn't have long to live, and he never really lived his life. So he tries to do one good thing and live his life a little bit on the side. I don't want to explain too much. So let's talk the original, like Akiru, which I think means living. The original one, Akira's original Living, is a fucking great movie, but it's so boring. It's just too long. This movie is a little more boring. Now, I don't say that in the sense of like, this is a bad movie, it's so boring. It's just got a lot of long fucking scenes. And I know that's to have more of an emotional impact on these characters and for the audience to see the emotions that these characters are going through. But man, you can fucking shave off some time, man, and I'll still have the emotional impact of what these characters are going through. I think that he should win specifically for one scene. When he tells the story about the kids playing in the park and he gives a look that changes his drive and motivation to what he wants to live for and what he wants to do before he dies. If you haven't seen the movie, check it out. It's really good. Next up, Best Lead Actress. And nominees are Cate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas for Blonde, and Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans, Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. I just watched To Leslie. Not many people had watched this film because I don't think it was nominated for any Golden Globes. And it kind of came out of nowhere. And apparently there was some controversy about her nomination because not many people have heard about this movie. It's very good. It's about, long story short, about an alcoholic woman 6 years after winning the lottery where she won $190,000 and she doesn't have the money anymore. And she's still an alcoholic. I mean, when you're an alcoholic, you'll die an alcoholic. Trust me, I know. One day at a time. But this film actually spoke to me in that aspect when it comes to alcoholism. I do recommend that if you're going through any type of addiction to watch this movie. She is fucking great in it. I see why she was nominated. I don't know what everyone else is talking about. I recommend watching this movie specifically if you can relate to addiction or if you want to see Marc Maron fucking crush another role. Maybe not Academy Award nominating snub role, but he's a great actor, man. He's so great, and this is a good film for him to be in because of the addiction struggles that he's had in his life. So I recommend seeing To Leslie. Now, who's going to win Best Lead Actress? Cate Blanchett, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, Ana de Armas for Blonde, the Marilyn Monroe film, or Michelle Williams or Michelle Yeoh. I believe it's well-deserved, Michelle Yeoh is going to win. She's fucking great in it, dude. She plays different versions of herself, different versions of the character that she's playing, and she does that very well. But also, we see a Michelle Yeoh that I don't believe we've seen before, and it's pretty cool. So that's who I think is going to win. That's who I think is going to win. Best Supporting Actor. Here are the nominees. Brendan Gleeson for Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for Fabelmans, Barry Keoghan for Banshees of Inisherin, and Ke Huy Quan for Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you haven't seen Causeway, watch Causeway. It's an excellent character study of two people that have lost something before, and they're trying to find a way to connect with another human being, and luckily they find each other. It's kind of hard to describe, but this was the film I was talking about earlier that Jennifer Lawrence, I believe, was snubbed for. Thank God he was nominated for this because he absolutely deserves it. And I do think that Ke Huy Quan, Short Round from Indiana Jones, and the supporting actor in Everything Everywhere All at Once, is going to win. He's not my personal choice, but if he wins, I'll be happy because he is great in this film. Perfectly casted, and he doesn't necessarily go outside of, because from the interviews and everything you watch, he's a very sweet guy. Like, that character you see on screen doesn't seem that different from the person that he is. That doesn't mean he's not a bad actor. That means that he can flex the muscles of which he knows about a character. And I think that's one reason you deserve a nomination. But I also think that you deserve a win for playing a character that you haven't played before as well. So if he wins, I'm still happy. But my choice is Brian Tyree Henry. He was great in Causeway. He's an excellent actor altogether. I believe he should be recognized more. He is getting more roles, though. Honestly, more than Lakeith Stanfield. Oh, Lakeith's doing pretty good. But when it comes to the cast of Atlanta, I think him and Zazie Beetz need more roles. And I am glad to see them both in these plethora of roles that they are getting. So I think he should win. And hopefully he does. Best Supporting Actress nominees are Angela Bassett, Hong Chow for Angela Bassett for Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, Hong Chow for The Whale, Carrie Condon for Banshees of Inisherin, Jamie Lee Curtis for Everything Everywhere, and Stephanie Hsu for Everything Everywhere. So who do I think is going to win? So I think that this is a very, very good list. Don't get me wrong. It is very hard for me to determine who I think should win. Okay. I do think that Jamie Lee Curtis is going to win. And honestly, I think that, no offense, but it is about like, who do we think deserves it the most? No offense, Jamie Lee. You were great in this movie. You played a character we haven't seen before. It's awesome that you got the nomination, and I applaud you for getting it. I just think that Angela Bassett should win, man. Absolutely. I don't know if she's won an award before. I should have put a note in there to see if she did, but we're going to find out right now. Don't worry, I'm going to wrap this up pretty soon. She's been nominated for 2 Oscars. Okay, probably for, What's Love Got to Do with It? Which she probably should have won. I don't know who the other nominees were for. Anyways, she absolutely should win this. If you saw Wakanda Forever, you know that the best part of that movie is her. Also, their send-off to Chadwick's character, and Chadwick in general. R.I.P. But anyways, she's so powerful in this film. Now, here's the thing. I think that that's my choice. But I also think that my choice is Stephanie Hsu for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Angela Bassett's acting in Wakanda Forever is not surprising to see from Angela Bassett. When you see that fucking scene in the trailer, you're like, oh my God, what a powerful scene. And of course, Angela Bassett can crush that. Stephanie Hsu, I've seen her work before she's in an episode of Poker Face, and she's also in the show The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. She's very good in it, by the way. She's an excellent actress. And in Everything Everywhere All at Once, she plays an all-powerful villain, and she's so fucking good in it, but she's so wild in it too. She has so many layers and volumes to the character that it is an Oscar-winning role. So I really want her to win, but I really want Angela Bassett to win too. Angela Bassett, I think, deserves it more because I think that she should have gotten an Oscar already. So it is one of those political choices. I want Angela Bassett to win because she should have had one a long time ago, but I really want Stephanie Hsu to get an Oscar without thinking of others, get an Oscar for her work in this film. Next up, Best Supporting Actor. Wait, no, we already did that, Tony, right? Yeah, we already did that. My bad. Best Supporting Actress. Best Adapted Screenplay. All right, so this is where we're going to go kind of quick. Okay, the nominees for Best Adapted Screenplay are All Quiet on the Western Front, Glass Onion, and Knives Out Mystery, Living, Top Gun Maverick, and Women Talking. All Quiet on the Western Front is based on a novel. There's been other iterations of this film. Glass Onion, this is an original screenplay, but apparently, according to the rules of the Oscars, you can only get, if your script gets nominated for a sequel, it has to be for Best Adapted Screenplay because you're doing an adaptation to the first film. So that's why it got nominated. Living is based off of Akira Kurosawa's Ikiru, and Top Gun is a sequel. Women Talking is based on a novel. I believe that the dialogue that we got from Women Talking deserves the Oscar. It is a very well-written script. It's just not a lot happens in the movie, and it makes me wish that it would move along a little faster, even though it's very, very, very serious subject matter. But I do think All Quiet on the Western Front is going to win. Not much else to say about that. Best Original Screenplay, the nominees are The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere, The Fabelmans, Tar, Triangle of Sadness. I think that the most deserved goes to Banshees of Inisherin, and I think that that's who's going to win. Whoops, sorry. Everything Everywhere All at Once, don't get me wrong, it's a fun film with some crazy shit script-wise, but you can't fuck with the dialogue of Martin McDonagh. I'm sorry. Also, Triangle of Sadness has that's a great script, and it's great subject matter, but it's hard when you're up against these other nominees. And I'm sorry, but I think Banshees should win. Martin McDonagh. Next category, Best Cinematography, All Quiet on the Western Front, Bardo, Elvis, Empire of Light, and Tar. I did watch Empire of Light and Bardo. Bardo was directed by the guy who did Birdman. I'm sorry, I don't remember his name real quick, and I'm probably going to mispronounce it. Alejandro G. Naruto, not Naruto. That guy. He did Birdman. he also did Beautiful and The Revenant and Amores Perros. The cinematography of that film is outstanding. I do recommend watching it for that aspect. The end of the movie really drags, but it is worth watching. It is basically a fever dream. It's very dope. I want them to win, but I also Empire of Light is really good. It's Roger Deakins, and he's won a bunch of times. But I think that Bardo's going to win because the fever dream is well interpreted through its camera angles. Fuck, we're at 47 minutes. I gotta speed this up. Best film editing. The nominees are Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, Tar, and Top Gun Maverick. I think that the winner is going to be Everything Everywhere All at Once because of how wild the shit is, but I'd be okay with them winning. Elvis, I'd be okay with winning too because, again, it's the concert shit. It's basically like watching a documentary at some points. But Top Gun Maverick, there's the scene where they actually do the mission, the Star Wars A New Hope mission, and it's wild, man, all over the place. That scene alone is worth it. But I think that the editing was very important to keep you on the edge of your seat. So I'd be okay if they won. Let's see. Best visual effects. I don't have to go over the other nominees. Avatar's going to win. We all know they're going to win, so there's no reason to dwell on that. All right, best picture. Who's going to win? We're not going to go over animated feature film because I didn't watch the movies. Pinocchio, Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Pinocchio, I didn't finish. I'm sorry. I fell asleep. I tried watching it twice. I don't think it's bad. I fell asleep. I don't know. Marcel the Shell with Shoes On, I hope wins. That's the only movie I watched in its entirety among this group. I hear Puss in Boots is good. Sea Beast, I watched the beginning of it and I loved it, but I had to leave. I think that's a great movie. Turning Red, didn't finish. Tried twice. I shut it off on purpose. Sorry. So I guess if I had a choice, it would be Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. But that's not the question, Tony. Who is going to win the best picture? Huh? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be... Sorry, I want to go over the nominees one more time. And then we can end all of this forever. Okay, the nominees again are Avatar 2, Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, or Women Talking. I believe the winner is going to be Everything Everywhere All at Once, and that's my choice. When it comes to Avatar 2, I just had a lot of problems with the writing. So, when you're coming with the best picture, it's about which is the best movie in all of its facets compared to everything else. And that's why it's better than the first, but it's not as great as Everything Everywhere. Banshees of Inisherin has great dialogue, has a great storyline, has great dark humor, but it's not as fun as Everything Everywhere All at Once. Elvis, great biopic, but again, I'd rather watch his rise to fame rather than the concerts that he performed at. The Fabelmans, it's cool Steven Spielberg's story. It's nice for him to share something like that. I'd be okay with him with this movie winning because it's a movie about cinema and the love of cinema. Tar, I'd be okay with winning too. I don't think it's going to, though, because it has a great commentary on cancel culture and who deserves it and what happens when someone goes through it. Top Gun Maverick, I'd be okay with it because it's one of the best movie theater experiences I've ever had. Again, a lot of corny shit with the storyline. The flying scenes are obviously the best, but it's one of the best movie theater experiences, so I think it should be nominated for Best Picture. Kind of like in the sense of like a lot of MCU movies deserve to be nominated for Best Picture because they're really good to see in movie theaters. Triangle of Sadness, a great film about economic, social commentary, yada, yada. Great film. Women Talking, important subject matter, but not fun to watch. Not necessarily does it mean that you should watch that a best picture should be fun to watch, because like there's Schindler's List that should win. Like I don't know if I can't remember if it did win, but it should have won if it didn't, because it's an incredible film. But Women Talking, just I was ready for it to end a lot. Everything, everywhere, all at once. I was also ready to end about 20 or 30 minutes before it actually did, but it is super fun. It's super awesome. I enjoyed it thoroughly. All right, guys, that's it. This went on a little longer than I thought. I really appreciate it if you did watch this. If you watch the recording of this or you're watching right now, please like, subscribe, share, and comment on who you want to win. You can watch the Oscars tomorrow at 8 p.m. on ABC. Before that, though, make sure you tune in to Popcorn Poppin' Live. We will be on Twitch. We will be on YouTube. We will be on Facebook. We will be on Instagram. But if you're watching on Instagram, I recommend watching on YouTube and subscribing on YouTube because you get to see all the cool stuff that I did. Thank you very much, guys. I had fun. Mostly the fun is being done. So I'll see you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Popcorn Poppin' Live. Peace.